All right, so this is my review of this ChiroLux table. This is the Pro version. I know now that they have the Pro 2.0, which has a better drop piece, so this is the older version. However, just kind of reviewing this one in comparison to the Lightlight table that I did, but also just to give a little bit more information on the ChiroLux brand itself. So this is the Pro, and it has this drop piece here, which is adjustable. But I'm going to go through the same scale as I did in the other video to kind of give a little bit better of a comparison. First, we're starting off with portability and weight. 1 out of 10, I'm going to score that an 8. It is a portable table. It is very nice. It's a little bit heavier just because it does have the drop piece. It's 25 pounds, which is still nothing. So if you are comparing it to a traditional ChiroLux without the drop piece, that one's going to be a little bit lighter. So this one's just a little bit heavier. The backpack is super nice as well. Overall, I'm going to give that one an 8. Moving on to setup and breakdown. So you saw me set that up. The only thing with this is, it's super easy. I'm going to go back to the Lightlight table with the legs and the fact that the Lightlight is the only one that you can set up and tear down without having to adjust the legs. However, it takes maybe an extra 5-10 seconds after you get proficient in it in order to set this one up. So overall setup is very easy. I will give it an 8 out of 10 for that one, just because with the head pillows, you do have to take those off in order to store it. And it would be kind of nice if you could just simply fold down the headpiece and close it up and be on your way. But you kind of have to shove those into the table in a weird spot just to try and get it to close, and it's a little finicky in order to get that. Moving on to the quality and materials. The one gripe I do have about just this table or the ChiroLux brand in general is that the build quality is not that good. Now, they're the cheapest, probably the most popular option among the students. And I know they do very well in terms of just taking them to events or even mission trips, that sort of thing. And it's not like they, tear up that easily. However, on this one, with this drop piece, the corners pretty much always fray. This upholstery tears up pretty easily. I haven't had to deal with the customer service, but I've heard it's not the best. So for the build quality and materials, I'm going to give that a 6 out of 10. For stability and safety, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. The static weight it can hold is 450 pounds, while the dynamic is 400. So overall, you're going to feel very secure on this as a patient, as well as the legs do bow out a little bit to offer some stability. On top of that, the width is going to be 22 inches. So overall, as a patient, you're going to feel very good down on the table. When it comes to the comfort as a patient, as the next category, that one I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, specifically just for this table. So the ChiroLuxes in general, they are comfortable to lay on. However, this one with this drop piece is incredibly uncomfortable to lay on as a patient, especially if you are a student practicing. If you're laying on the side, this wood piece right here is going to drive into that hip, and it's just not going to be comfortable in side posture. Now, laying prone or supine is going to be completely fine. However, if you're using this drop piece a lot and doing a lot of side posture with it, this just feels like a piece of plywood that you're laying on your hip bone, and it's just not the most comfortable. So for that, I am going to give it a 5 out of 10. For adjustability and the features of the table, I am going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it does offer a lot, especially with this package. It has the drop piece, which is very good if you're into using that sort of technique. It's adjustable with this knob as well, so it does work out well. And I know with the 2.0 version, they've made some upgrades. I'm not sure how those are in comparison to this one or how they'll last over time, because I heard this drop piece specifically kind of goes out over time pretty easily. And if you're going for a drop, you need to get a Thule table. Now with this table though, it does come with two options here. So this is the armrest, which this kind of straps along with the headpiece here. Which it kind of just dangles around right here. And then this will come up and attach, kind of like this. So that way your patients can, I can put some weight on that and it's not really going anywhere. Okay, so the other piece we have is the extender piece here for the legs. Now I'm going to lay on the table, being around a little over 6 foot. So right here, and then these pieces just kind of fold out. And it just goes right in the end here. And then kind of snaps into place using the same mechanics as the other legs do, like this. Overall, with the drop piece here, which as well armrest and the leg extender, you do have a lot of flexibility in terms of adding on different packages. So if you're looking for that, you can easily add those on, and it is, one of the added features, giving it that 9 out of 10. So for the price and value, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10, just because even though you're adding on, the leg extension, the armrest, you have the drop piece here, it comes with a backpack, that's going to run you, just the table itself with the drop piece is going to run you around north of $900. And then if you're adding on those little extras into the package, I know kind of all of it together was around $1,100 or $1,200. And then you also have the shipping that gets added on at the end, which is another $100. So you could be looking at anywhere to like $1,200 to $1,300 to get this table, when the overall price doesn't reflect the quality as well as the longevity of the table. You're kind of more getting this aesthetic brand in a sense. So in terms of the price and the value, I don't really see it in this table unless you're really into the drops. But if that's the case, I would just really go for Thule, as that would last as long as you can really practice. But if you're looking for a portable table, I would probably just stick to the base level models they have, because the price range there is going to actually last in terms of the portability of that table, and that one would be much better bang for your buck compared to this one. For aesthetics and branding, I am going to give this an 8 out of 10, because the ChiroLux brand does really well and is the most popular among the students, I think due to its sleek design, as well as all the added features you can get. You can kind of get its own, it's a whole ecosystem when it comes to that portable table. And it's a good price for a, relatively, or a very, very portable light table. For the noise level, I am going to give this an 8 out of 10. Just comparing it to that light table, this one does kind of squeak and creak as you're moving around on it. And then the drop piece is obviously going to be louder, but that's normal for drops. Setting it up and opening it and tearing down, it does make just a little bit more noise. It's nothing that's concerning though, nothing crazy. For the last category is going to be user experience, as you as the student or the doc that's going to be taking care of patients on the table. Overall, with this table, the biggest concern I have is going to be this drop piece as well, just because you as the person taking care of whoever's on your table knows that if they're going to be in side posture, it's probably not going to be super comfortable. So that would be a thought that's in the back of my head, which might hinder your performance and try and rush things and that sort of thing. As well as the drop piece here has this handle and knob that stick out on the edge, which again, being this portable table, you gotta kind of use all the space you can get with it. And I know that my thigh has brushed up on this, depending on the patient and everything too. Their leg could be hitting this even though you don't really want it to. And this thing just kind of snags on a lot of items that you don't necessarily want it to. So that can be one thing. However, there is a lot of pros to this table, with there being a drop, getting the extras. It is very portable. You do get a good sleek brand as well for the price. And overall, like, you're not going to go wrong getting one of these tables. I would just kind of consider trying out one with the drop piece before you purchase one if you can. And then if you can't and you're not familiar with the technique that uses drops, I would avoid it. So overall, tallying all the categories together, there's going to be 64 out of 100. And it's probably going to be one of the lower scores of all the tables I'll be reviewing, just because of this drop piece mainly. As the patient, it's super uncomfortable on this. It really just does feel like plywood. I hope that they upgraded the 2.0 just to get rid of that aspect alone. And you do have the handle here as the dock. You'll be kind of snagging on this every once in a while. So that one can kind of be a little bit aggravating. The other part with the brand, they don't use the best quality materials. So, I'm curious how long some of this lasts. Like the bag feels super durable, but even a lot of the seams on that are already kind of fraying apart, and one of the seams already came undone for like the extender device. So overall, it's just like you're kind of seeing that quality very fast in this brand.